So last week, if you remember right, we were talking about this idea of being in a relationship with God and how a relationship with God is really just like a relationship with everybody else. In other words, that relationship has its ups and its downs, and how the more time we give our relationship with God, the more we get back from it. And we talked about that, and I also shared that it was during my preparing for the talk, like I felt like I was being nudged a little bit by God, and God had some thoughts he wanted to share, she wanted to share. Thoughts like, don't make it so formal. I'm always here. I love you. You and I are one. And I do have a sense of humor, and quit hiding. So if any of those kind of get your attention, the recording is online. I'm not going to go into that stuff again. And I really thought like I was done with it, right? I thought like, okay, cool. We're moving on with that. And I already had my next talk planned in the back of my mind and everything. And then sure enough, all of a sudden what happens is I start getting this, psst, hey. I'm like, what? And I hear this, we're not done yet. Excuse me? Yeah. There's more to be said about a relationship with God. And I was like, okay. And silence. And finally I said, you're telling me there's more to be said, but I got nothing. What are you doing? God said, I've got plenty to share, but I'm not going to tell you. What? Wait a minute. Let me understand what's happening right here. It's like, you said we're not done. Yeah, that's right. And that there's more to be said. Absolutely is. And then you said, but I'm not going to tell you. Do I get this right? And God said, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Silence. And I sat there and I finally was like, all right, what gives? Like, what's going on here? And God said, it's simple. Because the rest of what I have to say is not going to come from you. And I said, well, if it's not coming from me, then who's it going to come from? And I hear this little giggle. And God said, just because it's not coming from you doesn't mean that it's not coming. It's going to be coming from a different expression of me. And I sat there and I thought about it, and then all of a sudden, I was like, oh my God. I realized what God was getting at. What God was telling me at this talk is not going to be coming from me at all. That it would be actually coming from, are you ready? You. This talk. It's funny, I had the same exact thought. Yes. And I'm sitting there thinking like, so let me get this right. People are coming to hear me talk. I'm not going to prepare anything. That's right. And we're just going to get up here and let it go wherever it needs to go. And God was like, yeah, sounds great, doesn't it? And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like panicking, right? And then God said, well, do you trust me or not? And I was like, well, of course I do. And then God said, so what's the problem? So, here we are. Here's the thing, and this is what comes to me, and this is what I believe with all my heart and soul, is that every single one of you has your own relationship with God. And that relationship and the way you're experiencing it is absolutely perfect. Perfect. You're doing a great job. And I think what God's getting at here is that by hearing different stories about what that relationship looks like, sounds like, feels like, that you will realize that there's not one way. There's many ways, which is what I always say here. Every single person here is going to have a different relationship with God in the way that it sounds, the way that it's done, the way that you experience it, and everything else like that. So in other words, there's not a one size fits all. Never has been, never will be at all. And by you being willing to share this morning with what that looks like for you, just understand that it's going to benefit everybody, right? So who's with me? Who's willing to take a deep dive and try this and see what happens and see what it sounds like and let it go wherever it needs to go? We are officially without a net this morning. So here's how this is going to work. In a minute, I'm just going to start asking some general questions. And there's going to be people we've got a couple of people in the back. Bill and Karen are going to have microphones. And I'm just going to ask that if you've got something to contribute, to please raise your hands. That would be great. I'm going to ask you to the best of your ability to try to keep it concise, because I get the feeling there might be more than one or two people. And I hope and pray that there's more than one or two people that decide to share this morning. The other thing that I would say is, for those of you that are in your chairs right now, absolutely freaked out and panicked, don't be. Honestly, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. It's okay. You're safe. All right. But it would be really cool to hear from a few of you. And like I said, I've got a few different questions. So that's it. The only other thing that I would say, one last little comment about this, is that if you get the microphone, please try to the best of your ability to keep it close to your mouth, because if you hold it down here, then we can't pick up on it, and the guys in the back can't hear from it. So, having said that, are you ready? Fire away. Awesome. All right. So, how's it going? How's it going? How's your relationship with God going right now? And the other thing I'm going to say is, it would be really helpful if you were just honest. I'd rather have you be honest than try to just tell a nice story. If you're having a great time right now and the relationship is on fire, let it be on fire. If you're struggling, just know that it's safe. You're safe here to be held in that as well. Because we all do this in our relationship with God, just like all our other relationships. It all does the same thing. So I'd rather have honesty than a nice story. Okay? So, the question is, what is your current state of your relationship with God right now? Charles.
The biggest thing about having a relationship with God from my standpoint always boils down to 4 words that I hear whenever I'm struggling or have doubts. And those 4 words are, do you trust me?
Mm-hmm.
And that really is the essence of faith, is to trust. To trust another person, to trust God, whatever. It boils down to trust.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. Therese?
He took my word, trust.
Mm.
But last week, Mike, when you showed this picture, God was telling me you need to let us share. This scene happened to me on Lake Michigan years ago when I took an early Sunday morning walk, which was normal. I got to the public park, and there were 3 men that had obviously been partying all night. God told my entire body, my whole being said, you will not be safe if you walk by these men. So I took my barefoot and I went up through some yards and went up to the street so I could safely return back to the home I was staying at.
Mhm.
And I just want to tell people, pay attention when you feel such guidance. It's incredible, just like the scene. So thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. David?
There's a concept that I embraced a number of years ago called the star. And so I'm going to add to the trust. To me, to be a star is you surrender, you trust, you allow, so you can receive. And the trust, to me, requires an element of faith. And to me, faith is saying full acceptance in thy heart, not the head, but the heart. And so, can I accept the ways of God, that energy, and can I just allow it to be? And God is in everything, and everything is of God. So just existing, to me, I feel that presence of that energy.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
For a long time growing up, I really didn't know who God was. Through my years, I've seen him work. The problem right now is I see him work, but then I drift away. I've been working really hard with Mike here, listening to his messages, Willow through the daily meditation, and I'm beginning to learn who he is and how to talk to him.
Thank you, Jim.
Ay, ay, ay. Oh my gosh. I love to be honest. Everyone knows that when I share, I like already have a predetermined story that I tell. So I can be honest in real time of you asking me what's my relationship with God. It's just a train wreck in my brain. And I'm like, God, who's God? Oh, wow. Do I have a relationship with God? Do we commune? Anyways, and then once that inner scramble and chatter and confusion like settled for a moment, it was like, oh, spirit. Yes, I am constantly in communication with spirit. It's just, the religious trauma that certain words are like really loaded. And I was just asking spirit yesterday at a spring equinox ceremony to really like move through me and like what was just said by Dave of like, God is in everything and just feeling that as nature comes back to life. I mean, it's always living, but just to feel all these different levels and layers of spirit, and quite frankly, I'm so touched by Carl and Ortrune Franklin. For those of you who were here like a year ago, and just them saying, when you're going to bed and you're in the comfort of your bed, to just send love and appreciation to Mother Earth and for all of this like the wood, the roof over our head, and just seeing spirit and everything and appreciation in everything. It really does feel like when I can tune into presence, I can tune into spirit on a however consistent basis that is throughout my day.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Christina. Thank you. In the back, all the way back.
Talking about trust, I'm learning more about trusting myself and God. And what is helping me is to have a relationship with God is to look into a mirror and talk. There's something about that that helps me feel closer. And sometimes I get answers to something that is up for me. As I get stronger in my trust, I know that then I'll get stronger in hearing and having a better relationship with God.
So I'm curious, Carolyn, if I could just ask one additional question to that. So when you're looking in the mirror, so for those of you that didn't hear, Carolyn looks in the mirror and then asks a question. Are you looking in the mirror and are you looking at yourself, or are you allowing at that point for something to come forth that's...
Okay, I'm looking at my eyes
Mhm.
because I was through reading and relationships with other people, I found that the eyes are a good way to connect directly
Mhm.
with God.
Yeah.
And so that's why I did that.
Yeah.
I never thought that it would work.
Mhm.
Starting out at first, it was very uncomfortable and like,
Yeah.
you know, yet it's like with anything, like riding a bike. You do it more, and then you can become more confident, more comfortable, and I'm looking forward to developing it even more and more.
I love the thought of that from the standpoint of you're looking at an expression. You are an expression of
Yes.
God, like I always say. So why would you not do that? I mean, I just think I've never heard of somebody do that before, but I love it. I just love the concept. I love the idea. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Can we talk about fun?
Sure. Always. Always.
Where are the funsters in the group?
Yay. I'm seeing a bunch of hands.
I just find that when I have fun, I relax and I hear things and I feel things. So I just want to encourage everybody to go out and have fun and meet your God in the fun.
I love that. Thank you. Very cool. Very cool. Jerry?
So my relationship with God, when I was a tyke and I would go into prayer, I would clasp my hands together and bow my head and ask for forgiveness for all the things, all the bad things I did, even though I wasn't sure what they, but I was pretty sure I did a lot of bad stuff and I just didn't even remember it. But it's been a long path. And since my days of clasping my hands and locking in and bowing my head and saying, I'm sorry, I don't always meditate well, but I can sit down for a few minutes and open my hands rather than close my hands so that I can release, so that I can accept. And I lift my head up rather than bowing my head down so I can talk to my Father. And then I have a much more casual relationship. It's like, hey, God, it was a pretty good day today. Thanks. That's all I need. And some days, hey, somebody I know is having a little problem. I'd appreciate it if you'd help them out a little bit. And thanks for all you do. So it's a pretty casual relationship.
Yeah, I love the way that it's changed. And like I said before with me, it was now I lay me down to sleep, that kind of a thing. I also love, in fact, I was listening to something this morning on the way in where the message of what I was listening to was just, it's not, the importance isn't the time. So it used to be for me personally, like, no, I gotta meditate for 20 minutes and I gotta be in prayer for 10 or 15 minutes, and everything was marked by time. And this message, which I just loved, said, knock it off. In so many words. Like, in other words, it's not, I hate to use the word required anymore, but it's the best word I have right at this moment. But trust that things are starting to shift to where what's way more important is your intention of the time that you do spend in prayer or meditation has a lot more impact and effect than, well, I'm going to sit down and meditate for 20 minutes. And so to your point, Jerry, it's like, yeah, I just have a really light, a comfortable conversation, and treat it like that. So that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Angela. I'm new here.
You're jumping into the deep end.
Growing up, I grew up in the Catholic Church. I moved away from that for many reasons. And my dad would always tell me that when I become a Christian, I'll be a great Christian, which made me more resistant to it. And I always said, no, I'm going to find my spirituality my own way, and I did for a long time. And in 2020, I grew my own garden in my backyard in the midst of the pandemic. And sitting in my garden and, just working it, I had an epiphany, which I, thought of it as an epiphany. And I think now was just guidance from, from spirit that just brought me this understanding of how important relationships are and how everything, including the soil beneath our feet and the plants, and it all depends on these building relationships, and how, as we had talked about earlier, is everything, we all have divine in us, we all have spirit within us, and that acts we can by experiencing our relationship and living in reciprocity, by giving our gifts to others and letting those gifts come back to us, is one of the ways that I really experience and move through my spirituality and find God, or find spirit, is just recognizing the spirit in all of us and living in that relationship to our best of our ability.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's interesting, even as everybody talks, and it's one of the things that I often talk about here, is this idea that some people really get hung up on the word God. We call God so many different things here. I mean, whether we call it spirit, in some cases when I'm speaking about it, I call God love. I just say love. And that can actually shift things for me at certain times versus being the traditional. But there's lots of names, and I just think it's interesting to hear the people share the different thoughts and ideas about that. So if you're somebody who feels like it's got to be God, then cool, that works for you. But if you like spirit, or you like all the other names, there's so many, that's really cool as well.
In my most recent conversations with God, I know that's been taken, but I use it also.
Yes. Yeah.
I have been drawn to the idea of referring to gratitude as a part of my life, and not so much as just a grocery list of gratitude for this and grateful for that and that kind of thing, but rather as a feeling. Gratitude is one of the feelings that really has the most highest energy connected with it. And I know that that's important because I feel it so much more when I'm using it. I used to use the word love, which also has a high energy, but gratitude seems to stretch me higher. And the feelings just is all encompassing. And it's not just looking for a little this or a little that I can be grateful for, although I've done that, and that's sometimes how I start getting my feeling going. But it's moves on past that into just kind of my whole attitude towards everything. And for me, that's very important. And that's been kind of one of the things that God has been calling me to be a part of, and to make a part of my life. And feelings are very much more important than I ever thought of. I mean, I used to think of mostly feelings in terms of bad feelings, but now I'm realizing that it is exceedingly important because feelings are the language of your body. Thoughts are the language of your mind, but feelings are the language of your body. And for me, that's been a very important thing, and gratitude has been right at the top of the list and all-encompassing.
That's beautiful, Joan. I just want to, I'm observing everybody that's talking and sharing. And what I'm loving hearing is it's coming down to an actual experience. Are you catching that? So everybody's having their own experience with this thing called spirit or God or anything else like that. And I cannot emphasize that to you enough. I mean, it's this, yeah, we get together, we talk, we do all these things, which are great. And sometimes there's some learning that's involved. But ultimately, what it comes down to is your own experience with it and the dance that you do with it and the way that it looks. That's the important part. And I think it's really beautiful that we're hearing that. Who else? We've got time for maybe 2 or 3 more. Would love to hear. Ethan? Oh, there we go.
Let's see, I'm just going to try it this way.
Sure.
When I think about breath, oh my goodness, it's such a big deal. And I don't do that a lot. But when I do it, I feel free.
Mm-hmm.
I feel this experience that I'm alive when I breathe. Just like a little bit ago, I could not connect it. I think I want to share this. We all share this air that a lot of the times that we don't really appreciate it. When I appreciate it, I see how big deal it is. I see that my relationship with God is through air. More air is more than, not to say water, because I can wait another hour to drink water. Food, I can wait probably until tomorrow or maybe a couple more days. But when it comes to air, it's amazing to just share the air that we have in this room together. And we all need it. And that's how I see myself, as I can relate to each one of you, because we have that big deal in common that we share.
So beautiful. Could you hand that to Ethan, please? Thank you, Ian.
I don't know. And that's been, I think, the most beautiful part of my journey into being able to trust my own experience of God, is when God was based on needing to know where we're going, why we're here, what we're doing, who we are, needing to know. Then there was a God of control, all power, all knowing. And there wasn't room for the love. And the more I come back to remembering, no matter how much deep wisdom I acquire, amazing experiences of non-duality and mysticism, I'm still the fool. There's still that important piece for me of coming back to realizing there's always something I don't know, which means there's always something in you that I don't know that I really want to hear about. And you and you and you and you and you. And there's that dance of the cloud of unknowing that creates relationship, makes it primarily felt.
Love that. Really beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you.
For me, my relationship with God is pretty new and real. I grew up very religious, very strict, all the rules, and follow this, and this, and then you're a good person. So now that I am actually connecting to myself, and this idea that the divine is in me is pretty new to me and pretty wonderful and amazing. So really just connecting to that, and then just learning more. So I'm just so excited for all the things that are to come.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. We've got time for maybe two at the most, one or two at the most. If anybody else would like to share. Don't have to. There we go.
Hello, my name is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
And I think the word that's coming to me is hope. And just looking at the photo that you have up there and the poem of the footprints in the sand, I can really relate to that in my relationship with God. And it's through those moments when there's one set of footprints that I'm probably the closest to God, because that's when I'm the most desperate. And so I need to remember those moments so that when there are two sets of footprints that I can maintain that. And I think just in reflecting on life, I've recently gone through a lot of endings in life. And I think now with the first day of spring and the weather changing, and that's definitely my favorite season of the year, I can start to have, or I am having hope. And instead of looking at life at the endings, I can look at it as new beginnings. And with that comes a lot of hope.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. One more. If anybody wants it. If nobody does, going once. Going twice. Okay. Oh, Taylor's going to wrap it up. Bill? Taylor?
When I'm sitting with this question, I'm just thinking about how the journey is transformed. It used to feel very like one-on-one, in this really sweet way with God. And there's been this like sense of like being in a change. It is hard to put into words, but I'm gonna do my best. Of like, yeah, just like there was a point where I was struggling so hard many years ago, and I was praying and I was like, God, what do I do? And God was like, I need you to take a break from reading the Bible, which really stunned me. I was like, okay. And since then there's been this like, it feels less one-on-one, and it's like I think Spirit's saying, okay, you got that, and now I'm going to push you to actually find me in other people, and that's much harder for me. And so I just feel this sense of like this undergroundness that's really sweet. Like I do feel this connection that feels constant in a way, but it's less direct. And I think it's waiting for me to find that direct connection through other people.
That is really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The good news is we survived. I really, really want to. And can we give a little round of applause to the people that talked today? Yeah. Thank you. Takes a lot of courage to do that, and I'm really, really grateful. Did you learn something? Maybe something a little bit different, a different nuance in your own relationship with God that could potentially help. That was the hope for doing this, to see that it's not all one way, and there's much, much different ways of doing it. But the key is, again, going back to this idea of the experience, and what is that experience calling you into? Because that's been my relationship with God. It's like it's calling me into this next experience, and there's always a next experience, and then what is the next one, and then what is the next one, and it's not a have to in any way, shape, or form. There's no, well, this has to do this, it has to look. No, it's just beautiful. It's like my heart just feels like it's being pulled deeper and deeper into this relationship as I understand it, and that's what I heard today. So I'm really grateful. You all did just a fantastic job. thanks once again for joining us in this crazy ride that we're on, coming together and having these crazy conversations. I'm really, really grateful. And other than that, I always say, don't ever forget who you are, ever. You are a brilliant, brilliant light of the divine. You're a beautiful expression, and you are so important. You are so needed. You are so valued. And I just hope that you remember that. And when you don't, then I hope you come back here, let me kick you in your butt, and remind you of who you are. Because I know that when I forget, you guys do the same to me. And for that, I am eternally grateful. So thanks for coming here this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless. Namaste and Namaway. Thank you.